Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Empowering Tomorrow's Cybersecurity Leaders, the Role of Practical Learning. I am Renal Vicaria, and I'll be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which the last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any questions during the webinar to organizers or our speaker, use the Q&A window. Also, if you face any audio video challenges, please check your internet connection or you may log out and log in again. Now about our speaker. Jacob Hall is a senior at the University of North Texas, soon to graduate with a Bachelor's of Science in Cybersecurity. He also interned in Fidelity's Security Operations Center during the summer of 2023, where he helped streamline the utilization of a memory acquisition tool for security investigations through automation. Jacob also gained exposure to incident response, threat detection, and threat hunting during his time in the SOC. He is an EC Council certified cybersecurity technician and ISC2 certified in cybersecurity. After graduating from UNT, Jacob will assume a position in Fidelity Investment System Engineering LEAP program before being assigned a permanent role at Fidelity. So without any further delay, I would now hand over the session to our speaker.
Hey everybody, it's great to be here. I'm really happy to bring this information to you and talk a little bit about the role of practical learning and why it's important that you get your hands dirty, get involved in cybersecurity practices, and make yourself a really good candidate for any job you're trying to get into in cybersecurity. First, I'd like to say thank you to Renal and Ritika for inviting me today, and also a big thank you to EC Council as a whole for granting me the opportunity to sit and engage with the community. And I'd love to hear any feedback from you all as well at the end of this presentation. It's great to be able to interact. So a little bit about myself. As you heard, I am a cybersecurity major at UNT. I'm in my senior year. I am also a certified cybersecurity technician under EC Council. And last summer, I did intern in the Security Operations Center at Fidelity. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. I'll talk about my experience because it does play into the role of practical learning as well. Let's get into it. So just a little roadmap before we begin of our presentation. So first, we're going to get into the essential skills that you need to jumpstart your career in cybersecurity. We're going to talk about technical skills and soft skills. So with any field you go into, you need soft skills, you need technical skills, but for cybersecurity specifically, we'll talk about networking, operating systems, and so forth. Just the basics that you need to lay the groundwork and know what you're going to defend, so you know how to defend it or how to attack it, depending on what role you're trying to go into. Then we're going to move into the importance of hands-on learning. So why is it beneficial to you? How is it going to help you further your career or jumpstart your career? And then we'll talk about how you can engage in real-world scenarios and begin practical learning. How can you take what you learned today from the presentation and then go out and try it on your own, try to break things, try to test your boundaries. And then we will talk about how we can implement practical learning into cybersecurity education. How can we prepare our learners and educate our peers who are trying to get into cybersecurity so that they can become better prepared for the roles they're trying to take on. And yeah, without further ado, so some essential skills, like I said, technical and soft skills. We'll get into soft skills first. So obviously you need to be able to communicate yourself. You need to articulate your thoughts, right? Like I'm doing now. Before I started my internship, really, I didn't think I had very good communication skills. But getting around practicing, you know, as we're talking about in this presentation, you need to go out and try to involve yourself in the skill that you're trying to learn, right? You need to communicate with other people, talk and bounce ideas off of each other. You need to be able to collaborate, right? You're going to be working in team environments. You're going to be working with your coworkers, and you're not going to be just isolated all the time, right? You're going to need to know how to work well with each other, and you can't just clash heads with everyone around you, right? You need to be able to work effectively together to solve a problem, solve a group problem. And then you also need to be adaptable. You need to change hats when you need to for any scenario, because in cybersecurity, there are many different threats, many different vulnerabilities that you will encounter, and you need to be able to change your approach, right? You need to be able to adjust accordingly, and that will prepare you for being an effective team player and an effective person in your role, whatever role you're trying to get into. Also, a good skill to have is investigation skills, because in cybersecurity, especially if you're going into blue team or red team, you need to be able to dig down into the nitty gritty of things. You need to look for IOCs, indicators of compromise. You need to look for areas of vulnerability, right? Things that you can exploit if you're on red team or penetration testing, right? So being an investigative type of person, you kind of get an advantage, right? Where you can look into things, you can dig deep and really figure out what you're trying to do, right? As far as technical skills go, you are going to need to learn networking. You're going to need to learn network architectures. Learning how data is transferred between systems and intra-systems, right, will help you in defending those networks, help you in defending the endpoints. Because if you don't know what you're trying to defend, you can't defend it, right? If you don't know how it works, you don't know what is there to be exploited. You don't know what threat actors are looking for. And knowing your threat vectors is going to be really important getting into cybersecurity, whatever role you take on. Also, operating systems. Obviously, the big three, Windows, Linux, Mac OS, these have different versions, right? And they have different processes within them. So understanding computer architecture, understanding the interrelational processes between the user and the kernel, right? And also understanding hardware like hard drives, RAM, processors, and the processes between them as well, right? Understand your threat vectors, understand what a threat actor might try to attack and how they might try to attack it. If you understand how these things work, then you get a better understanding of what these people are looking for, what the attackers are trying to find, and then you can better defend against it, right? You know what areas you can set up blockers in, what kind of things you can implement to defend against those kinds of attacks. And that kind of plays into the next idea, is that you need to know threats and vulnerabilities. You need to understand some basic threats. You need to know things like SQL injections, which are still very common, remote access Trojans, reverse shells. Get a basic understanding of what types of attacks are out there, right? And you can do this by looking around you at different incidents that occur, different breaches, and it's a good way to get involved, get immersed, and be a part of the community to understand where these attackers are headed, what they're trying to accomplish, and what things they're using to reach those goals. Another thing that I have here is risk, and this kind of plays into the business side of things, understanding what assets your organization holds and being able to assess the level of risk that each asset contains, right? Because you're going to have different assets that have different levels of risk, and understanding which assets are most critical will help you in defending the most critical parts of your infrastructure. You need to understand where to apply this, where to look for threat actors, right? Because they will be trying to target these highly critical systems, and assigning risk will be a good step in becoming a better cybersecurity professional, getting a holistic approach to the idea of securing your organization. So let's talk a bit about the importance of hands-on learning, why it's important that you get your hands dirty, get your feet wet, and go out and use tools, test things, test your boundaries, right? First off, it gives you an enhanced understanding of the concepts, right? If you're just learning theory, just passively sitting and listening to lectures or watching videos or reading textbooks, right? Maybe you get small understandings of definitions, you can recite things right off the top of your head, but that doesn't really equate to being an effective team player, an effective cybersecurity professional, right? Because you don't know how things work. If you start getting into it, right, and you start trying to use these tools, maybe you get behind a computer and start using some command line tools to try and hack your own virtual machine, right? You get an idea of what things go wrong, where things go wrong, right? If you're using certain command line tools and you have to use certain flags, right? You understand which flags to use. You understand, oh, I can't do this here, I can't do that there, right? When you find those errors, those mishaps, that's when you learn, that's when you grow, because then moving forward, you become quicker in your response time, right? You become quicker and more adaptable to each situation because you know what works, you know what doesn't work. And that kind of plays into the idea of having useful experience. If you are moving forward in your career and you're trying to get into cybersecurity, if you have experience with these tools, with these processes, then you'll do very well in technical interviews, whether they ask you certain questions like, how would you go about solving this issue, right? If I can't connect to google.com, what is the first thing you start to look for, right? What is the first thing you do? And maybe you open your command line and you ping google.com, maybe you trace route it, right? Try to see where the packets are going. That's just a small example, but it gives you an idea of what you can do to actively try to use these tools, try to solve these problems, because then in those technical interviews, you will have that experience under your belt to call upon and use, and you'll seem like a more prepared individual, right? You'll seem like you have some knowledge in your head and not just some stuff you can recite from a textbook, right? Getting your hands dirty, using the tools is really essential for that purpose. And also in improving yourself within your career, right? If you're trying to move forward in cybersecurity, having that experience under your belt, you can tackle problems more easily in your role, right? Whatever problem you're trying to solve at work in your corporate environment, you'll have that experience to call upon when you encounter those challenges. Another important thing about practical learning is that it gives you an opportunity to self-assess. When you're working through these problems, you get an idea of what areas you are weak in, and what areas you are strong in, so you know where you need to improve and what you can market to employers, right? Where you know your strengths are will help you in marketing yourself as an individual, writing your resumes, right? Trying to get into these cybersecurity roles. If you know that you're good at red teaming or penetration testing, you know that you're good with Linux, right? You're going to put that on your resume. And if you have certain areas that you're weak in, you can go back and practice those concepts, practice those ideas to become stronger in them, to be more efficient in them. And then you can put those on your resume because you're more confident. And that's another thing, right? Being more confident because you know how to do these things. You know how to tackle these challenges. Many people suffer from imposter syndrome, not thinking that they are good enough for the role that they're trying to get into, or not thinking that they're qualified for the role that they're in even. But going home, practicing, running up a home lab, right? You get experience, you get practical knowledge. So then you become more confident in your abilities. You're like, oh, I know how to do this because I do it myself at home. I do it all the time. It's repetition and increasing your retention, right? Because if you just learn a concept once, try it out once, it's not going to stick. But if you keep doing it, you keep learning, it's continuous, right? Then it really soaks in. You really absorb it better when you are actively trying to work through problems, work through challenges, and when you encounter mishaps, you climb those mountains, right? And this isn't to say that theory is necessarily bad, right? Learning theory. I'm just trying to emphasize that when you are learning theory, when you are learning theoretical concepts, when you're reading textbooks, listening to lectures, you need to then go out and practice those concepts. In theory, you learn your knowledge base and you create an understanding of an analytical framework, right? You understand what problems to look out for, right? But then you go practice it and you understand how to work through those problems. You understand new problems, right? New errors that occur, new encounterings, right? And you'll notice on both sides here, I have continuous learning underlined. That's something that I really want to emphasize as well, is that you need to be continuously learning. You need to continuously go out and practice these concepts, right? Go out and continuously work on your home labs. That's another good thing about home labs. They're always there for you at home, right? After work, right? On the weekends, if you just sit down and try to test out things, try to break your system, then you will gain a better understanding of how your system works. You'll understand the different tools a bit better because you are constantly practicing with them. So how can you engage in real world scenarios? How can you go out and do this on your own, right? One of the best ways is interactive simulations. So spin up a virtual machine, right? Simulate a corporate environment, simulate a corporate network by using some fake network streams, right? And then run Wireshark and capture those packets live, and then go into the details of those packets, try to find the source IPs, try to find, excuse me, try to find different flags, different SYN flags, TCP, right? Understand the TCP IP model, the OSI model, and through that you will gain an understanding of networks, you'll get an understanding of how your operating system is handling this kind of network activity, and then you can become more investigative with it, right? And look for certain source IPs, learn how to filter through those logs. You gain an understanding of what it's like being in a SOC analyst type role, maybe a network engineer type role, right? Applying cybersecurity concepts. So you get an understanding of these different real world scenarios by simulating them and reenacting the processes. Another great thing to do is have immersive exercises, right? So a bit more involved. You create your own home lab. You set up maybe an attacker machine and a victim machine, and then you try to attack yourself, right? You try to break into the machine. You get an idea of how you can test out these tools and methods, the different methodologies of attackers. So you gain an understanding from both the blue team perspective and the red team perspective. You know how the attackers are thinking, what methodologies they're using, so then you can defend against it a bit better, right? You understand where they're looking for, what they're looking for, and you can set up blockers there. You can set up, look for logs in those areas, right, that you are specifying. And it's a great way to get yourself involved, get yourself practical experience with it, try to understand how the other side would think. And overall, it's just a really rewarding experience for yourself, right, to get both of these teams' knowledge. Another great thing is case studies. Case studies are important because, like I said, cyber warfare is a constant ongoing process. It's a constant thing. Organizations are constantly under attack and breaches happen every day. Incidents happen every day. New vulnerabilities are disclosed every single day. So reviewing these incidents, reviewing how the attackers gained a foothold, right? How they were able to move laterally within the network gets you an understanding of how the attackers are thinking, once again, right? What tools they're using, how they think, so that you can go in and defend against these processes, defend against these attacks and these techniques. Also, you can understand the different response processes, right? How are these incident response teams going in, isolating the attacker, isolating the compromised machines, and remediating the attack, right? How are they weeding out the attacker, and how are they interacting with their different business units, different systems to effectively remediate the vulnerabilities as well, patch things, right? When there's a new vulnerability disclosed, how are they going in? Who are they contacting? What third-party vendors are these companies using in order to get these vulnerabilities, and how are they going about patching them as well? Understanding these processes, maybe taking the attack methods from the attackers and then trying them out in your home lab will be a good way to understand those specific attacks and how you can specifically look for IOCs on your victim machine to better defend against those, right? Then you can try to set up IDS, intrusion detection system, to detect those kinds of attacks and protect against them. Again, it's just a holistic way to understand both sides, the different processes that are occurring on your computer, on your network, and you get a really generalized idea of what cybersecurity is really about, right? So then how can we integrate practical learning into education? So cybersecurity labs having prescriptive steps that walk you through tasks like you might find in certifications like the Certified Cybersecurity Technician under EC Council. The 80 plus labs, they They really get you an understanding of what it's like being in these different scenarios, these different roles that require you to do different things, wear many hats. They are dedicated environments that have simulated scenarios, right? Different networks, right? You have different machines that you need to travel to, different things you need to run, different tools that you use like Wireshark, all these different network tools and also attacking tools that you get familiar with in these labs. And it's a great way to get involved, get immersed, and really prepare yourself for the many different domains of cybersecurity. Also CTFs, it's like a gamified way of learning. You have to capture flags, you have to go into these systems, hack around, try to move laterally, gain access, gain different levels of access, look for where you can have footholds, look for different vulnerabilities, scan the network. It's a great way to understand these different concepts and apply them, right? You get the rewarding experience of having a fun activity, but you're also learning. You're also expanding your knowledge. You're growing, right? Because you're trying out new things. You're testing ideas that you've never seen before. You don't really have a necessarily prescribed way of doing things. You have to go out and try things. You have to test things out, and that's one of the best ways to learn. Also internships. Here I'll talk a little bit about my internship experience. Being in an internship, you have the ability to ask questions at all times. You are able to be the learner, be the person who doesn't know everything, right? You have to understand that you are in that position and you are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to be new. You're allowed to be fresh, right? So there's people around you. You're in an environment with all these professionals who are willing to give you this information, willing to help you succeed because they want to see you succeed because you are a new cybersecurity professional up and coming, right? And being in an internship, you get hands-on experience with many different fields. I myself got experience with alert triage and also the development side of things in cybersecurity using DevSecOps practices, and also learning about threat intelligence, threat hunting, threat detection, shadowing these people in incident response, seeing their processes, seeing how they worked, how they communicated with each other, how they collaborated. It's a great way to be involved and understand the many different processes that go on in a company, an organization, in a security operations center specifically. So trying to get these types of roles, trying to get involved in gamified learning, CTFs, and trying to actively look for labs that give you dedicated environments and prescriptive steps to walk through and practice are all great ways to start out your career in cybersecurity, and especially certifications like the cybersecurity technician, where they give you all these labs, all these different scenarios. It really opens and broadens your horizons, right? Broadens your capabilities, expands your knowledge, and tests your capabilities as well. So you can constantly go back to them and try to improve upon where your weaknesses are and strengthen them and try to become a all-around great cybersecurity technician. So that brings us to the end of this presentation. Again, I'd like to say thank you to Renal, thank you to Ritika, thank you to EC Council for inviting me here today and being able to talk to you all. And I will now be open for any questions you guys have.
Thank you very much, Chekhov, for delivering such an insightful and informative session. We found the webinar very engaging, and I hope it was valuable for you as well. So, before we begin with the Q&A, I would like to inform all the attendees that this session is in sync with EC Council CCT program. CCT is an entry-level certification program by EC Council. This program provides multi-domain technical skills, 85 hands-on labs, has captured the flag exercises and performance-based exam delivered on a live range. There are going to be 3.5 million cybersecurity job vacancies in the world by 2025. As a commitment to close the cybersecurity workforce gap by creating multi-domain cyber technician, EC Council has pledged $3.5 million towards CCT education and certification scholarship to certify approximately 10,000 cyber professionals ready to contribute to the industry. If you're interested to know more, kindly participate in the poll that will be conducted now. So, Jacob, should we proceed with question and answer?
Yes, let's go ahead.
Okay. Okay, Jacob. So, our first question is, what are the platforms in which we can learn cybersecurity practically?
So I would definitely recommend the Certified Cybersecurity Technician under EC Council because, like I said, the many different labs allow you to get that practical experience. You get hands-on experience with many different tools, many different scenarios as well. You are exposed to the different domains, the many different challenges that you might see in those different cybersecurity roles, right? So you get experience with tools, you get experience with the scenarios, and I think it's one of the best places to learn because it is prescriptive. It walks you through the steps, but you can also go back and try to figure things out on your own later on when you're doing this certification. You can go back and refresh. You can try things out, areas you're weak in. You'll see which things you aren't really sure about and which things you really do know well, right? So it's a great all-around process and great all-around certification to get you that practical hands-on experience.
Thank you for answering that, Jacob. We'll take another question, which is any suggested roadmap on someone without IT background and wants to be in cybersecurity?
Sure. I would definitely suggest trying to get internships, trying to earn certifications, and trying to learn on your own, right? Trying to get some practical experience under your belt. And when you're trying to get an entry-level role, having these certifications definitely helps because not only does it give you some credentials, some help in that arena, but the credentials themselves, these certifications will walk you through the many different processes and help you in learning about these processes, and you get that experience that way. So even if you don't come from a degree in cybersecurity, you can definitely pursue certifications like the CCT, right? And those give you what you need to get started. Those give you the essential skills, the essential knowledge that will help you build those skills, build upon that knowledge, build upon your areas of expertise, and open you up to the many different roles within cybersecurity, even if you don't have an IT background. Learning these concepts through these certifications gives you experience and gives you like I said, that credential that shows that you know something, right?
Thank you for answering that. We'll take our next question, which is how to learn cybersecurity in addition with AI.
So AI is a great tool to use. You can definitely use it to help you in your learning cybersecurity. I think that using the tool alongside alongside home labs, alongside the many different tools, if you try integrating it somehow, integrating AI applications into your workflow, it can really maybe be a helper in the process of learning. You can maybe use a large language model to ask it questions about which tools might be better to use, why you use certain tools, why you go through these different processes, and it can explain that to you in a way. I think that that might be one of the best ways that you can use AI in your learning, but the best way, right, would be to try and learn these tools on your own, try to work through these problems, these challenges with your own ideas, your own trial and error, because in that way you get the best type of experience, the best understanding of what to do, when to do it, right? Rather than relying on AI.
Thank you for answering that. Our next question is, how do you see AI coming in the cybersecurity field, and how is it going to change the job roles?
So I definitely have seen the use of large language models in particular to simply speed up processes like reporting. And in that manner, it's not really um, going to take away job roles, right? It's not going to do what some people are really fearing that it will do by taking away certain jobs, replacing workers. I think that it'll be a useful tool in speeding up the processes, but I don't think it will really necessarily crash the job market, right? And I think that maybe there will be some roles that really benefit from it, some that really it doesn't change much. But I think in that way, it's going to help us. It's going to allow us to be more effective professionals.
Thank you for answering that. Our next question is, I am a cybersecurity enthusiast and currently a third year college student in India. I'm finding it extremely difficult in finding cybersecurity internship. What should I do?
So if you're having difficulty finding security internships, I think that getting into any IT related internship would be a good start if you just cannot find a security related internship, because you still get familiarized with the different technologies, the different concepts like networks and operating systems. Even if you're getting into something like a IT support role, it's a good way to start out because you familiarize yourself with troubleshooting and maybe communication skills as well, talking to end users, which is a really big importance in cybersecurity, is protecting the end user. So if you're teaching the end user about their system, teaching them how to pursue security best practices in that role, you get that feel for that, right? And if you also need help finding security internships, I would also recommend, trying to market yourself, trying to put yourself out there, get on LinkedIn, do these types of things to really open up your doors, right? Try to pursue certifications as well, like the CCT, and really make yourself a ideal employee for employers, right? Try to build up your credentials, build up your experience, and show them that you have the capabilities, you have what it takes to be in those types of roles.
Thank you for answering that. Our next question is, there are plenty of questions, Jacob. So yes, our next question is, are there free platforms online for setting up a virtual lab and doing stimulations?
So I know that you can definitely download hypervisors and set up virtual machines that way. I think that that would be the best way to learn rather than just doing it online, right? I think that um, downloading these virtual machines, downloading these hypervisors and setting them up, trying to build your own private networks there will get you an understanding of these different concepts. You'll understand how to configure settings, how to set things up properly, and you'll encounter issues as well in doing that, which is one of the best ways to learn. Like I said, right, you need to encounter problems so that you can troubleshoot them, work through the challenges, and better yourself as a professional. So I would definitely say um, that kind of stuff is free, right? So I would definitely try to do that.
Thank you for answering that. Our next question to you is, what can you say about certified cybersecurity technician and how helpful can it be when you are certified ethical hacker?
Right. So the certified cybersecurity technician is just a great way to maybe refresh the concepts that you've learned after going through the certified ethical hacker certification. You definitely encounter some different labs where you are the attacker. You are trying to run these different commands in the command line. You are using different tools, different techniques and tactics to attack web applications as well. So you get hands-on experience with the tools. You get refresher on how to do things, right? Because they are prescriptive labs and they walk you through the steps, they walk you through every procedure. So if you're lacking in some areas, it'll definitely help you bring those areas up to par with your other areas of expertise. If you pass the certified ethical hacker, then you're definitely on the right track, right? But doing a certified cybersecurity technician certification would also just give you an extra boost, give you some strength in those areas, and expose you to the other domains of cybersecurity, which may interest you, like incident response, digital forensics type stuff. It's really, really overall great way to expose yourself to all the different areas of cybersecurity. And I think that you should do that so that you have a better understanding of the different sides rather than just on red team or penetration testing side. So then you can really think through those different methodologies, right? Like we were talking about earlier, it's good to understand the concepts of both defensive side and the attacking side because you know how the other person would think, so you know how to defend against it, or you know how to attack this person because you know where their defenses lie. So yeah, I think that taking the CCT would be great for you, even if you are a certified ethical hacker.
Thank you for answering that, Jacob. Next question is, as an intern, did you get to work on global issues or just onshore detected events?
That's a great question. So I did get to work on shore detected events, and I did get exposure to working on some global issues. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. I think you mean um, maybe things that are happening at a government level, international level. I'm not sure, but through threat intelligence, you kind of get exposure to the many different things that are happening in our world, right? And I did talk to some people in threat intelligence, and they are really experienced at finding this information, finding sources to look for things out in the wild that may occur on our own network, on our own systems, so that we can set up threat detection, set up threat hunting to look for those types of things. But as far as working on global issues, I didn't personally have any experience with that, but definitely on shore detected events.
Thank you for answering that. Our next question is, hi Jacob, the webinar is very good. Could you please tell what's the first courser should do to start a career in cyber?
Thank you for telling me the webinar is very good. I appreciate it. I hope that you are all learning a lot here. The first course that you should do to start a career in cyber, I would have to recommend the CCT because it is a certification that lays the groundwork for further certifications. It is a great tool to use to go back to as well. Once you finish it, once you work through all the course and soak up all the course material, you can keep it and look through it again because it's a great refresher. Even if you are a professional already, it's something to look back on and just learn things again. Maybe you forgot certain techniques, certain tools, right? But doing these labs will get you a better understanding of that. Even if you are further down the line, you can always come back to it and really strengthen those areas, right? So it's just a great all-around certification, and I would recommend it to anybody looking to start their career in cyber.
Thank you for answering that. Our next question is, what are the platforms in which we can learn cybersecurity practically?
So I think we answered this question already, but I will say again, it's a great thing to use platforms like EC Council to get hands-on experience, get your hands dirty with tools and techniques, right? Using EC Council's website to look through the many different certifications, the many different free courses, right? They get you hands-on experience. You can use those concepts that you learn and go practice them yourself as well.
Thank you. Next question is, what would you consider the best soft skill learning experience you had?
The best soft skill learning experience I had, was probably during my internship. Being in that environment, you get used to talking to other people, you get used to bouncing ideas off of each other. Working in cyber development, I worked within the development team and talking with each other, trying to solve problems together. That was probably one of the best ways to learn as well, right? Group problems, group projects. That gets you involved in collaborating and communicating. And you also use skills like troubleshooting, but you're in a group environment, so it's even better. You get to work together to solve issues, and overall, just a really great experience. Also, just being in the Security Operations Center itself, not even necessarily just working in that team, but being in that environment around all these professionals who have years of experience under their belt. You get to be around the terminology, get to be around people who are really excited about cybersecurity or really excited about IT in general. So talking with them, rubbing elbows with them, right? That's the kind of thing that gets you those soft skills.
Thank you, Jacob. Our next question is how to get abreast with the changing dynamics of the cybersecurity environment.
Right. So cybersecurity is always evolving, right? It's always changing. There are new tactics, techniques, and every day, right? There's a different incident, different breach, these different procedures. It's always changing, and you need to stay up to date, right? You need to get subscribed to news channels, keep up to date, stay up to date with the right certifications, the right news sources, and the right sources of information. So keep your head above water by being involved and being inquisitive and trying to learn everything that you can, trying to soak up as much information as you can. Place yourself in situations where you'll be around people who are in cybersecurity or interested in cybersecurity, because then you are going to be actively talking about it all the time, right? You're going to be talking about these incidents, talking about the news, talking about the many different changes, and you'll be a much more prepared individual if you do these things because you are involved in it. You have that ingrained in you. You are cybersecurity, right? If you talk about it all the time, if you are bouncing ideas off of other people around you, you get a really immersive experience. And that's, like I said, one of the best ways to learn is being involved and actively talking about it, actively trying to do these things, use these tools, use these procedures, encountering these challenges, right?
Thank you for answering that. Our next question is what are the gaps in current learning practices?
I think in many cases, some learning practices don't have enough practical work. They don't have enough practical work alongside the theory that is taught. But there are some courses out there like the CCT that give you both, right? You get information passively given to you, but you also have tasks to perform to test your knowledge of that theory, to test your abilities. And that's one of the most important things, is being able to apply the theoretical concepts that you learn. So a lot of places, if they don't have the practical challenges to back up the theory, I think that it's not as effective as something that gives you a procedure to do, a task to perform, that gives you an environment where you can test out your abilities and test where your weaknesses are, where your strengths lie.
Thank you. We'll move to our next question, which is do you have any suggestions for CTF sites for beginners?
Definitely, there are plenty of capture the flag sites. If you search for them, you will find plenty of them. But I would also recommend EC Council's CCT, because there are labs in there that kind of have that CTF style of performance, right? And the performance-based labs, there's kind of the performance-based exam It's kind of got some CTF vibes to it, right? You have to use what you know in the labs, use what you know from the theory as well to go and apply it in the exam, and it really tests that knowledge for you. So it's a great way to understand whether you have picked up on the concepts enough, whether you have found the ideas that you need to learn, right? Whether you are capable of getting into that gamified experience and then going and finding these flags, right? Finding what you're trying to search for specifically.
Thank you, Jacob. Next question is a degree required for higher or senior IT cybersecurity roles?
So I think that having a degree will definitely be a bonus for you if you are trying to get into those higher or senior IT or cybersecurity roles. I don't think that I've seen many senior level roles that don't require a degree, but if you are just trying to get started in cybersecurity, you don't necessarily need a degree. But having certifications is really what will drive you, right? What will really push you into those kinds of roles, because you need some level of experience, you need something to show for, right? And if you don't have a degree, that's fine, but certifications will be your friend, right? And specifically for those higher or senior IT security, cybersecurity roles, I do think that a degree is required for many roles in the fields.
Thank you, Jacob. We'll take our last question. What are the advantages of practical learning versus classroom in cybersecurity?
Great question. I think that in a classroom, it should involve practical learning. So there should be hand in hand theory being taught and practical learning, right? So in many classes, you'll see that professors either do or don't provide practical learning, but I think in most cases they try to give you labs to do, they try to give you prescriptive labs or even non-prescriptive labs that allow you to work through the problems on your own on a step-by-step basis, or they allow you to test your knowledge entirely, right? Do you have what it takes to complete this lab? Have you soaked up enough knowledge? I think that that is integral, really, in a classroom, to have that ability to test your knowledge, the ability to test your skills and see where you're lacking in, right? That's the whole point of being in a classroom, is to understand these concepts, to be taught, to learn, to engage. And one of the best ways to do that is through practical learning. So they kind of go hand in hand, not necessarily having one over the other, right? They should be both.
Thank you, Chekhov, for answering so many questions. It was a great interactive session. And thank you again to our wonderful speaker and for the great presentation and the knowledge shared with our global audience. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking for more and more sessions with you, Jacob. Before we conclude the webinar, would you like to give a message to our audience, Jacob?
Definitely. I would say everyone listening, go out there, try to get your hands dirty, work with these tools, go out and learn something. Try to broaden your horizons, test your boundaries, try to learn things that you didn't think you knew how to do, right? If you're thinking about getting into cybersecurity, if you are trying to move laterally or above in cybersecurity, then I think that it'd be great for you to get started with the CCT or learning in a home lab, just trying to gain that practical experience so that you are better prepared for your role, and maybe try to learn the concepts in a dedicated environment like the CCT, so that you have something to come back to and refresh things as you go, right? That continuous learning that I talked about. And for anybody just now trying to get into cybersecurity, I say good luck to you, and I'm hoping the best for you. You'll do great.
Thank you once again, Jacob.